Our business at Standard Bank Commercial Banking is really about an entrepreneur. It's really about being relevant to the entrepreneur and adding value to the entrepreneur. So when you look at the nature of an entrepreneur, it's normally a company that relentlessly pursue opportunities. But as a bank, it's important for us to add value from a financial and from a non-financial perspective. To really help an entrepreneurial company to grow, you need to be connected with good growing opportunities. So if you look at growth in South Africa, historically that growth have been very static. We've seen growth rates just north of 1% per annum in South Africa recently. But when you look at East Africa, for example, you find that many of those markets are growing at rates well in excess of 6% per annum. So what we are trying to do is to take very capable entrepreneurs in the South African market and then help and connect them to opportunities that might exist elsewhere in the continent, where on the back of that growth, they can grow themselves. In the process, you often need large-scale projects. When you think about growth, growth is really about the spark, really about building that momentum. So these large-scale projects often are the catalysts that you need to really help a company to grasp onto it and grow and build momentum as they go along. So Africa is our home and we drive growth. But to do that, you need to look at big scale opportunities that really operate as a spark that help you to grow your economy. So when you then look at some of these larger scale opportunities in Africa, there's a lot of capital spent that gets allocated to these projects. And that capital spent tend to cascade down the value chain. And we genuinely believe that by latching onto those opportunities, you enable a business to grow. If that business grows, intermediaries like a bank who is a service partner of that entity will grow with them, and ultimately the country and the economy of the whole continent can grow on the back of that. Yeah, it's really about an opportunity. So when you look at the East African economy, there's three countries that really stands out for us, which is Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania. When you look at those markets, there's significant fossil fuels that is available to be exploited. Those countries have invested significantly to capitalize on those opportunities. When you look at a country like Uganda, they've just mentioned that they're investing in oil capacity, so they will evacuate oil from Kenya to Tanzania and ultimately provide that into the global market. Yes, it's important when you talk oil and gas to really take a view on the value chain. The value chain is very interesting. There's normally an upstream, a midstream and a low-stream part of that value chain. So the upstream environment is really dominated by multinationals. So there you have significant investors who will introduce equity in early stage development, and they will really open up the opportunity. They then partner with the respective governments, and then on the midstream side, build the refineries, build the actual pipelines, and start delivering services that really help to evacuate the product. From our perspective, we're extremely excited about the downstream opportunities because you have this money flowing through the economy. And it opens up significant opportunities for ancillary services, for example. If you think about establishing a site for an oil project and you just think about housing investment, temporary housing that has to be built. When you think about engineering services, your EPCs, your engineering procurement contractors, when you think about services like catering, education, etc., there's so much that can flow from this opportunity. Over the years, Standard Bank have spent a lot of money on the continent. We well invested in 20 countries throughout Africa. And in those countries, we've really built ecosystems. An ecosystem will typically exist of a relationship manager with a portfolio of clients, and he will also have local knowledge of that market, know the local auditors, know the local attorneys, and have that capacity to support that network. And then in South Africa, we've got the same. And the big privilege that we have is we've got an opportunity to really link these ecosystems together and ultimately use that for the benefit of the client. Risk is always present on any project for any entrepreneur, because ultimately for an entrepreneur, it is about balancing the risk versus the return. We, through our network, can support clients to mitigate many of those risks. You mitigate risks through information. So we can support with local information, and then we can also support them with their specific transactional needs. If, for example, a client needs to import certain products or certain input materials, we can support even with that trade finance risk mitigation through letters of credit and through providing various other solutions into that market. President Ramaphosa expressed the need for capital investment of about 100 billion into South Africa specifically. And to really mobilize that funding, it is all about creating opportunities. And if you, for example, use the power sector as an example, Minister Khadebe have just announced that he's putting up his hand for 25% of that investment. We put a lot of effort into really understanding a client, understanding his business, and understanding his sector. And by spending that effort, we can connect clients to opportunities, and we can then provide them with financial and non-financial solutions for whatever their requirements are.